Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. Welcome to episode 133 of Cantinho Benfiquista podcast, titled Quarter Finals for the second year in a row. As always, your host, Mike. Today we have a light crew here. We got Jason. Jay, how are you?
What's going on? How's
And we
everyone?
got Oscar down in the Sunshine State. How are you, Oscar?
Very good, very good. After a excellent performance by our team.
It is, yeah. It's another W, another important W. We got a lot to cover today, so we will get right into it. Before we get started, just want to thank everyone for all the likes, the follows, the subscribes, the shares. We had a goal to hit 31,000 by the end of the season. We are now well past 32,000 on Facebook, about 300 away from 33,000. We surpassed our 550 mark on YouTube. We're close to 600. We're knocking on the door of 2,000 on Twitter. We surpassed 700 on Instagram. And in the last month, we reached, just on Facebook, over 1.2 million viewers on our page. We had engagement of almost 300,000. That includes likes, shares, comments, and we had 4,299 new followers just on Facebook alone. Those are just some quick numbers that I pulled before we jumped on. So huge achievement over the last month, and we thank everyone for following us. And again, if you like us or not, it just takes you 5 seconds to hit a like or subscribe. We don't make any money off of it, but the bigger we get, the more opportunity we have to have, more powerful guests on the podcast in terms of interviews and conversations. So we appreciate it. We're going to talk about Benfica 5, Bruges 1, aggregate of 7-1 in the Champions League. Stamped our place into the quarterfinals. Huge achievement for us. I had some stats here. 54 years since we made the quarterfinals and back-to-back years. And that's the first time in the new Champions League format. So quite impressive. Benfica also has the longest invincible record in the new UCL format to date, which is 13. That counts all of this season plus the draw last year against Liverpool. So we're on 13-game unbeaten run in the Champions League, which is the longest current run in the new format of the Champions League. So impressive record. Roger Ball is working well. We're going to talk about that. A few situations in regards to the game, some players, some opinions that we're going to get your thoughts on. We'll talk about OdySaves. Renews his contract today till 2027. I know he has divided the fan base. There's a lot of people that are on his bandwagon. There's a lot of people that are still undecided, of people that think he's not good enough for the team. We'll get your thoughts on that. And I have some questions in regards to Domingos Soares Oliveira, who's rumored to be leaving the club. Also around kind of the entertainment factor around this with the lighting, public speaker. There's a lot of questions around the public speaker at the stadium in regards to the fans. So lots to talk about. And then Oscar wasn't here for our predictions in terms of the Champions League. So we'll get his thoughts on who his want and who his avoid in the Champions League is for the next round. And we'll run through mine and Jay's predictions and how they stand. Jay so far is perfect. Mine, not so much. We'll get there. Before we jump in, para a malta que esteja a ver em português, esteja à vontade de participar aqui nesta nossa conversa. Todos percebemos português. Podem deixar os vossos comentários na caixa de comentários em português e nós iremos abordar as suas questões. Quickly run through the chat here. Red Baron, welcome back. Good evening, folks. Nick, boys, hell of a win yesterday. Let's keep this train rolling. I hear you, man. Let's keep this train rolling. As always, leave us your thoughts, your comments in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube. Twitter, for some reason, since they got rid of Periscope, doesn't push the Twitter comments into here. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, please engage in the conversation. Give us your thoughts. Give us your comments. Boys, 5-1 yesterday. Emphatic victory against Bruges. I mean, we knew that Benfica was superior going into this game. Although we looked a little shaky in the first maybe 15, 20 minutes in Belgium. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't expect this performance at home. I expected a confident and a good performance given the superiority that we have over them and given their current form, but I did not expect this. Starting 11 Bloco de Grimaldo, Otamendi, Tony, Ba, Auschna, Chiquinho, Florentino, João Mário, Rafa, and Gonçalo Ramos. Oscar, I'm going to start with you. Rafa comes in for Rafa and Chiquinho come back into the 11. Ned is on the bench. There was an uncertainty of whether Roger would keep the team the same way. Now, well, he puts him on the bench. He still came in and scored. So how do you, I mean, any surprises? Were you surprised by any of the changes in the 11? And how did you see this game?
Surprise? No. We were all like basically didn't know what to put in anyway. So any starting 11 that he would select wouldn't be a surprise to me. Though Ned it just sucks to have to choose one of the guys like to leave in the bench. Those guys are top players, right? So Ned has ended up staying on the bench, and we all, I mean, you guys mostly agree that Ned has been phenomenal coming off the bench. Again, he proved that he comes in, scores a goal. We don't know by his facial expression if he's ever mad or happy or sad or so
he's neutral.
He's like, I'm like, fine, let's keep riding him because he doesn't show any of him being mad at this, right? But man, we came into this game yesterday, and I just Benfica put on a show. I know they had a nice lead from Belgium, right? Coming back with a 2-0 lead, it's easier to kind of play with that result. But man, the how they flow the game, how it's played, doesn't matter who they put in there. The game seems to be seamless. Like it's beautiful to watch. I was watching the commentators on whatever the channel that I was watching the game on. I think it was who was that? Henry and somebody else. And they were and they were talking like, it's fun to watch this team play because they play with such like a going forward mentality, that they as well, they play defense well, right? So like it's just fun to watch. And I don't remember the time other than that, and I'm going back to Jorge Jesus when we had the Cardozo and Aymars and all that I've seen Benfica play this kind of style, which it's awesome for the fans, and it kind of proves that the way the fans are coming to watch the games, how they are interacting with the team, it's because how they're playing, and it's awesome to watch. It's awesome to be part of this momentum that they have going. And I mean, there's nothing to say about the game. The 5-1 was just part of it was legit like expected at this point.
I mean, we came out of the gates blasting, right? João Mário scores that flick in the first minute, called offsides. But I mean, just the environment in the stadium, the fans were electric.
They were nuts.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that, again, my question to you, Oscar, before I pass it back to Jay is, again, we expected a 5-1. I guess, what do you read into this team and maybe Rodgers and his staff's mindset that he's built into this team and ingrained into them, and the fact that, like, my expectation was we're going to come in, we have a 2-goal lead, we're going to come in, we're going to score 1 goal, and we're just going to kind of ride it out, right?
And that's how they use that's how usually the team plays.
Do that, right? Like they just kept going forward, and like when they scored the 4th goal and the 5th goal, like they were celebrating like it was their first, right? And like, do you think? And I've listened to some other podcasts, and do you think, some people are saying that it's a mix of the players and the mentality of the players, and others are saying it's the mindset that the coaching staff has ingrained in them. Others saying that it's coming from the top. Like, how do you look at it from that perspective, right? Like, is it a mix? Is it more on the players? Is it more on the coaching staff? Because we're coming from a couple of years of, right? I mean, we've seen Jay pass, right? There were games where we smashed, and there was others that like we could have smashed, and we kind of like took our foot off the gas, right? So like,
back, right?
How do you see it? What's your perspective on it?
Like, and I'll tell you one thing. In what I think it's a mix of everything. It's a mix of like the coaching staff kind of implementing this kind of game style. But you saw, like, I could expect, like, oh, we played Bruges, maybe that's why we're playing like that, and we kind of like took over the game. But we did the same thing as Juventus. We played basically head to head against PSG, and we're not scared of them. So we played the same kind of game. The system was there, the same system. We are attacking football team, right? So to me, it comes from the coaching staff giving these guys confidence, and it's almost like it reminds me of the time where Scolari used to coach the Brazil 2002 World Cup, like, and with Brazil won it, right? And he's like, I saw Ronaldo, I saw Rivaldo, I saw all these guys. I'm like, just go have fun, play your game, and enjoy yourselves on the pitch. What am I doing? Like, these guys are playing phenomenal because they're confident. They're confident, and you can't say, hey, we have a 2-0 lead. Let's defend this and go to the quarterfinals. These guys are playing their asses off. They're not conceding a lot of goals. Let them play. Let them play their style, the style that they like. João Marius come out and said, this is the style of soccer I like to play. Players have come out and say, like, this is exactly what was missing in Benfica, is this style of play, which is offensive. And I think you should just let it play.
And I think you start to play in the mindset of, like, let's just see it out. I think that's when you run the tendency of players starting to get into bad habits, right? Because you're just going through the motions, right? You're not kind of take your foot off the gas. Thoughts on this game, and similar question that I asked to Oscar, I'll pose it to you, and then I have some questions about your favorite buddy, number 88.
But Oscar kind of said it. This game was we just dominated the whole game. I was happy that we didn't kind of take the foot off the gas. I think the atmosphere in the stadium was rocking, and I think that has something to do with the players kind of going out there as well and performing. Like, dude, these fans are over here jumping up and down. There was a point, I think it was in the first half or early second half, they just kind of zoomed around the whole stadium and people were just jumping, like screaming. And the players feel that momentum, feel that presence, and they wanted to put on a show, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly couldn't, like, it was a game that we had in hand. We controlled it. This is the best I've seen Benfica play since the break. I would say this is probably their best game. Kind of bringing back to the style of play that we were playing before the World Cup break. I just thought that I'm happy for the team. I'm happy for our fans. I'm obviously happy for Gonçalo Ramos and Rafa, João Mario. I felt like this was a great team win. Grimaldo played really well. I just thought it was an excellent game. It was a game that we never lost control of. We dominated, and we're on to the final 8.
And Jason, just remember, like João Mario's flick at the beginning, right?
Oh.
Look at the confidence that these guys are playing with. Rafa's goal, the easy thing would have been
Netta's goal. Netta's goal with Gonçalo
tiki-taka.
Dude, it was unbelievable. It's just a flow.
And Rafa's goal, right? The way he turns on that player, and then he kicks with the outside of his foot to.
I thought he fucked it up. I'm gonna be honest, because he had João Mario right there.
Easy thing is just lay it off to João Mario. João Mario taps it in, right? But the confidence these guys are playing with, it's unbelievable. It's like these guys are just having fun. And
the best part of it is we have players like Gids on the bench. We have players like Ned is on the bench, and I know we always be like, oh, I want to see Rafa play. Dude, I don't care. Throw a fucking 11 out there. If that doesn't work, Roger isn't scared to take guys out at halftime. He's done it. If something's not working, he switch it up, and we have depth. So use it and go with it. Just trust. Roger has done very few mistakes, in my opinion, this year. People can criticize his substitutions and criticize this or that, but overall, he gets an A+ from me so far.
The only substitution I ever criticized Roger was putting Brooks as a striker. But other than that,
is he even on the team anymore?
No, he's not.
No, he went to Germany. That was desperation.
Other than that,
when you're playing Xbox and you go all out attack. Sporting does it with Coates and it works.
I know, but Coates scores goals. Brooks just follows.
Yeah, I know, but he only had a couple of chances. He's never played striker in his life. Give the guy a break. Before I ask you the question, I'm going to run through these comments quickly because we got a lot of names in here. Jorge Zabilo says, Viva Benfica. Well, about Adi, I really think we can find a better option for goalkeeper. About Domingos Soares Oliveira, what do you guys think about Noronha Lopes taking his place? We'll get to that. Jorge, welcome. Steve says, let's hope Inter passes and we get Inter. Would be amazing kicking Inter out. Double of the taste. Philippe says, hope we get Chelsea. Steve says Chelsea slowly getting stronger. Taylor wants Porto. Philippe says, I want Sport Lisboa and Benfica give a lesson to Enzo and João Felix. Joaninha says, I think it's the tone at the top for sure. Steve says, yes, me too, but keep an eye on Chelsea the last 3 games. They did have a good team, just not playing as a team yet. Steve says, I want to avoid them. George Zabilla says 100%. Nick says, Roger Ball, such a breath of fresh air. The willingness to win rather than playing not to lose is amazing. And I think this is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Right? Wanting to win rather than playing not to lose.
Right. Because
and when you play not to lose, you run the risk.
Just remember, the old mentality that we used to have coming back for this game, we were playing to keep the 2-0 that we already had a lead on, right?
Exactly.
On aggregate.
Yep.
So we concede one goal, and back in the day, everything goes into shambles. And then, oh shit, like here defending balls, like 10 guys behind the fucking ball defending the whole game, right?
Yep. But
this mentality is totally offensive that like we don't have to worry about that, which is awesome.
Yeah. Red Baron says, most attractive soccer I've seen our team play for quite some time. Juninho asks, random question. I heard Gonçalo Ramos makes a super low salary because he's still on a juvenile contract. What would be the expectation now that he's becoming such an essential asset to the team? I'm going to flag that because we're going to get to that. Nick says, we have great depth, something that we're lacking at the start of the January transfer window. Great job by management to address that area. Agree, right? Like Jay said, having, a Neres on the bench that's in form, having Gonçalo Guedes on the bench that's in form, right, makes a huge difference. We talked about not having players that could come off the bench that were explosive and could make a difference in the game immediately, right? And like now we have them as long as they're fit. Josh says, I'm not sure about it. I don't think he'll still be a juvenile contract, but they spoke about our renew the contract after they solve Grimaldo, not the Mendy contract. So they'll raise the salary. So Jay, I was going to ask you about Gonçalo Ramos, more from the performance perspective first, and then we can talk about the other pieces. Listen, I'll put my hands up. I was one of his many critics, and one of his many critics in the sense of like, I didn't feel like he was a natural goal scorer, right? I knew that he had potential. I think we all did, but I just felt like, and I think the numbers showed it at the beginning of the season in the sense of like his efficiency wasn't great. But again, he's 21 years old, right? Like first full season as a starter, like that comes with time, right? Like I don't expect him, you're not going to always find the Haalands of the world and the Mbappes that are going to get a one chance at the age of 19 and put it in the bag, every single time. But I must also say, in 2 months, this guy's efficiency has been ridiculous. And I think it comes with what Oscar was saying, right? Like the confidence. Naturally, when you're confident, it just starts to happen, right?
Yeah.
It just starts to flow, and he's taking more risks. I mean, that second goal that we score, he takes it on the left, he twinkle toes around two defenders and buries it. That pass that he takes, he comes down the line on the first goal. He picks that cross out to Rafa, right? Like those are things that like maybe he didn't have the confidence to do at the season. Now, right, he's just like in his second goal, right? Left-footed, just comes in slowly. I watched the replay 3 or 4 times. Just comes in slowly, bang, left-footed. Didn't try to kill it. Didn't try to smash it.
He scores a lot of those goals. A lot of those goals. Near post.
He scored a lot of poacher goals, right? Over the last, I mean, he did against Sporting, same thing. My question is going to be, and I know what your answer is going to be, and then I'll ask it to Oscar. Like, are you, given what we knew, right? And I naturally, obviously, you're going to say no, you're not surprised, but are you surprised realistically at like how his evolution has been from then till now?
Well, you're right. I am not surprised. I guess from the beginning of the season that he would have 30 goals and probably mid-teens assists, and he's on his way.
What made you think that, though? I'm wondering. What made you think 30 goals? It wasn't proven before, so what made you think he had 30 goals in him?
I don't know. That's what I said on the podcast.
I know, but you just aimed high. But
I put numbers up because I just felt like he fits the system. He was a true number 9. I've seen him do it in the B team, and I think that playing behind Darwin last year kind of affected him a little bit. He's not a behind the striker. He's a striker. He needs.
That's where he started to play though as a young kid.
Yeah,
in that midfield.
But to me, he's a striker and he's proving it. And he scores goals in so many different ways. I don't even think Darwin scored as many goals as with his like corner kicks on headers and stuff than Ramos did this year. I think Ramos is good on those first post corners. We've seen him score goals from there. He's good with his left foot. He's good with his right foot. He can make little moves. He can pass the ball. I think he is a great number 9. And I completely agree with you. There came a point in the middle of the season that I was like, maybe he's not going to get to that 30. But the last 2 months, like you said, the guy is on a fucking tear. Like, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I don't know if he got embarrassed by that video he did during the World Cup or whatnot, and he wants to just prove himself that way. Like I just think that the guy is playing out of his mind. I think we're not going to hold him, personally. I think at the end of the season, I think he's gone. There's going to be another $100 million player, in my opinion, and it's going to be him. But reality, I'm not really surprised. I did think that he was going to score a couple goals this game. Like it's just happening for him, and I'm seeing like an evolution of a number 9 for a future for Portugal, future for Benfica. Hopefully, if we can re-sign him and no big club comes in knocking. But I am not like people can complain about his efficiency. I never really thought that. I mean, I have in 33 games he's played for Benfica. He's got 23 goals and 9 assists. So he's been involved in a goal for Benfica every 77 minutes. That's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good for me. I mean, that's just my opinion. I have nothing else to say. I'm a big Gonçalo Ramos guy. I could talk about the guy all day.
Wait, what were the numbers you said?
When I looked up, I got 33 games, 23 goals, and 9 assists.
So 34 games, you might be missing one. But yeah, 34 games, 23 and 9. Yep. No, and I agree. I think it's good. Oscar, are you I think we're on the same boat as me in terms of we were more pessimistic than optimistic. I'm just gonna plug something in. I'm listening.
Can I ask Oscar one question?
Sure.
Where was Chuck?
Chuck, dude. Let me. At that time when Chuck was competing with Ramos for a starting 11, all right? You think Chuck is a guy that's proven himself, not too much, not on the club level, but in this last down, at least Ukraine, that gave me guarantees, right? When it came to Gonçalo Ramos, he hadn't given me any guarantees, and you kept saying Ramos is going to be. So it's a good gamble. It's absolutely a good gamble because he's proven to be a good striker, right? But he had nothing to show for it and I said, I'll give him credit when credit is due. Like, and right now I'm giving him credit. If I had a hat, I'll take it off for him because he's phenomenal, right? He's been playing, and I think it comes to what I said earlier. The team playing, it doesn't matter who you put in there, they'll shine because the team is playing such as a team that no matter if you're decent, you'll be fine in that. Chiquinho looks like a superstar. And last year we talked about Chiquinho being horrible, right? So Chiquinho looks like people are calling him Zidane. Are you kidding me? Like, this is Chiquinho playing for midfield and Benfica. We couldn't adapt Samaris, Pizzi, Tarapt. We couldn't adapt any of those guys in the midfield, but we can adapt Chiquinho, right? So
I agree.
So like right now, Ramos is part of that 11 that he's in there. He's taking advantage of it because the team is playing as a whole and it's playing awesome. That chemistry between the top 4 guys is unreal. They play for each other and it works out. The way that Ramos plays works out on this team, and I agree with you. Like he's a guy that can run, that doesn't sit inside the box the whole time. So it works for him because the way we play with the tiki-taka that we're playing right now, like the Barcelona of the old times, it's working for any striker to score a lot of goals, and Ramos is taking advantage of it. I take my hat out to him, and I really hope he's the starting striker for Portugal.
I mean, to talk about Ramos, and you mentioned it too, like the way he puts pressure on defenses too helps. Like Ramos is a runner. Like he can run. He runs pretty much the whole game, and you don't see that from Chuck. No. You didn't see that much from Darwin. No. You didn't see
different
that much
type of player.
Yeah, but exactly. But like that helps in gaining possession in their half of the field, and we can kind of go up. And he's right now he's finding the right spots to be in, like a striker should.
Can I be concerned about something though? I'm concerned that he leaves too early. I'm concerned that he leaves at the end of the season. I'm concerned that he becomes another Nelson Oliveira. Right? I'm the biggest concern there. Is Manchester United is looking at him, right? Manchester United is looking at him. He goes to Manchester United. You think he's going to take Rashford's spot? No, he's going to come off. He's going to ride bench. So it's going to be like one of those. Depends where he goes. Depends how much time he plays, because he can become another Renato Sanchez. He can become another João Felix jumping around because he can't get another
Gonçalo Guedes.
Gonçalo Guedes, right? So that's what my concern is, because right now in Benfica it's shining. But once you go to Manchester City, Manchester United, you're not going to have that kind of minutes.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, obviously, I just think he's going to leave. I think
of course.
I think the money's going to be too much for Benfica to say no, and it's going to be, his contract's going to be hard to him to say no.
I agree.
But I completely agree. I think he could use another year at Benfica, stay, develop more, and then go off and do your thing. Like I completely agree with that. I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, if he goes too early because he looks at money, that's his career. It's his career, and he should be learning from other people's mistakes, right? And maybe sometimes he has no choice. Maybe sometimes like the team, like, hey, I need to sell you, so you have to go buy up either, right? But in this case, I don't think Rui Costa would do that. So he just has to be smart about his career and not do this dumb mistake of leaving early and then riding bench.
Hopefully Gibbs is in his ear and letting him know some details.
Seriously.
On that.
Yeah, to let him know what his experience was like. I'm going to ask you guys this question, and it was a good segue because I didn't tell you guys what this question was going to be or in the agenda, but it's funny that you guys mentioned it. So we all mentioned, right, like performances like this from Gonçalo Ramos bring attention, right? And that, in my opinion, being Benfica fans or any team in Portugal, we naturally are a selling club, right? And naturally, again, in my opinion, our mindset is going to be turned to shit. How long are we going to have this player, right? We did it with Ramirez, right? He was here 1 year, gone, right? Enzo, 5-6 months, gone, right? And I don't know if you guys followed our WhatsApp group, but there was comments back and forth yesterday about this. And like the comment is, we have a negative mindset. Why should a good performance in Europe or a good performance from a player trigger us to think, oh, they're going to leave. Oh, someone's going to like, do you guys think that's a negative? Like, I don't think it's a negative mindset. I think it's a realistic mindset. I'm not saying we need to sell him because he's great. I'm saying that he's crushing it. It's going to be very difficult for us to keep him. Yeah. People are looking at it in a negative way and saying, oh, it's a negative mentality. It impacts the players. It impacts, like, do you guys see it that way? Because I don't.
I'll tell you how I see it. I see it as Ramos is making 1.2 million a year. He goes to Chelsea or Manchester United, he's going to make 6 or 7 million a year. That's what I see. Can Benfica pay him 7 million a year? No. So there that's the only difference. Like, that's why we think, hey, yeah, he's gonna go. He's gonna go. You can't keep him because we cannot pay him 7 million a year. I'm not even worried about how much they pay for him, right? I'm paying, if we keep him, we have to match the salary that the other team wants to offer, and we can't.
Yeah, and I agree. Like what the fuck does Ramos really care what what Benfica get for him? He's going to look at what he's getting per year.
Exactly.
So like I think that's kind of dumb, to be honest. Like, I don't think that's a negative mindset. It's like what you said. It's more realistic, because when you put numbers in front of Ramos, like, hey, you want to keep playing at your childhood club for 1.5, or you want to go to Chelsea for 7.8? Like, it's a fucking no-brainer. Like, any of us would probably choose the higher salary. It's like when you go for a job here and you have 2 job offers, which one are you going to usually take? You're usually going to take the one that pays you the more money.
Right.
Realistically.
And I think that, and this kind of leads into the other piece of the conversation, which is, right, there's always ways to kind of slice and dice the cake in terms of the compensation, right? We can give you a lower salary, but we'll give you a higher signing bonus, right? Otavio did that at Porto. Right. So there's ways to slice and dice it. But the realistic part of this is that each one of these players have 1 to 2 big contracts in their career. Right. And Neil says, "Will Dormir, keep up the good work." Thanks for tuning in, Neil. I know that you'll listen back after. Right. These guys got 1 to 2 big contracts in their career. Right. Someone comes knocking at your door with, 5-6 times the amount that you're making today in a league, again, that's far superior. I'm not even looking at the club, right? Chelsea, there's not many clubs in terms of history that have history than Benfica in Europe. I mean, let's be honest about it, right? There's maybe a handful, right? Now, there's a lot of clubs that have more financial stability and possibilities than Benfica, right? And that's what's going to drive a lot of these players is, right, if I make this contract, I can set up the future for myself, my kids, my grandkids, my great-grand, like, that's a lot of money.
That's what Enzo basically his mindset.
Correct. And the way I'm looking at it, right? So there's ways to slice and dice this. And who said it here in the comments? Steve says, "Can we do something about Grimaldo? Guy is worth a renewal." And here's what I'm going to ask you guys. And I got into this conversation on our WhatsApp group the other day. And those of you tuning in and listening, jump in the comments and let us know your thoughts. And I'm going to go back through the comments after we touch on this. But what was being said in the WhatsApp group was, Grimaldo apparently was asking for like a crazy sign-on bonus, right? Which other teams are willing to give him. Again, because financially they can. So let's just say 10 million, right? I think it was like 12 million or whatever, but let's just say 10 million, an even number, 10 million sign-on bonus plus what you're going to give him for the contract, right? And the example that we were talking about was Otavio. I think Otavio was 12 million sign-on bonus plus his 4 years of salary, right? So say he's at the salary cap, 2 million, right? That plus 12, that's 20 million investment over 4 years, right? And what I was defending was, even if we can afford that sign-on bonus, I think it sets a terrible precedence in the locker room, because Grimaldo says, hey, I want 10 million, right? Plus my salary. Benfica says, great. Okay. You've earned it this season, right? We've all sat here in the last 2 years and talked about how Grimaldo's been up and down. He's crushing it this year. It's a contract year, right? If we sign this huge investment and he drops off next season, right? That's a fucking terrible decision for a club that isn't a Manchester City, isn't a PSG, right? We don't have those deep pockets. We don't have the luxury. My concern is, if we can make this investment for a player like Grimaldo, can we make this similar investment for a player like Otamendi? Right? He's at end of contract, and he says, hey, if you did it for Grimaldo, why can't you do it for me? And then someone else come, right? Like, and I think we set a terrible precedence in the locker room, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Jay, I'll start with you.
First of all, we shouldn't be taking any financial advice from a team that's in the hole like Porto is.
Well, that was just a real life example.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that dig in. But I don't think that's smart, because then if you're going to pay Grimaldo that, so what's João Mario going to be worth? You're going to have to pay him more. What's Rafa going to be worth? You're going to have to pay him more. Like, it's just, you're going to put your team in financial crisis after a while if you keep doing these contracts. To be honest, I love Grimaldo. I like the way he's playing this year. There's times that I question his defensive mentality.
We all
did. Bit. And the last 2 years, I thought that a lot of goals came from his side. And I was okay with letting Grimaldo go. But the way he's playing this year, like you said, contract year, dude's balling. Every time we get a free kick, we always go on the group message like, oh, this is going to be another one. Like, I mean, it doesn't go in all the time, but we always think that it's going to go in because he's been that good. He had a couple more assists. Like, the guy's a machine this year. Would I like to see him stay? Yeah. But I wouldn't fucking spend crazy amount of money. Like, I think he's a left back. I think you can find a left back somewhere. Hopefully it's just as good as him. But if not, then you would have to make do. You're not going to pay crazy money for a left back. That's just my opinion. Especially a team like Benfica, where the money needs to be spent on probably the forwards in the midfield and probably the center backs. I think those are more positions that you probably get paid more, in my opinion, than the right and left back. That's just my 2 cents.
And my argument here was, right, and the guys in the group chat were like, well, what's the difference if you invest 20 million on a player over 4 years, or you go buy a player for 20 million? The difference is that in the locker room, the player sitting next to you just got a huge fucking chunk of change in his pocket. If you buy someone for that money, that guy doesn't have the money in his pocket, right? So like there's a difference there, right? Yeah, Benfica investing that in a player or giving that money to another club, in my opinion, is very different. Oscar, thoughts?
No, I totally agree. Benfica has to have rules within the club of things how much money they can give a player, knowing that they have to give the same amount of money to the next player, right? And that's how you keep a locker room happy. If you go ahead, Grimaldo is going to leave if I don't give him $20 million, then that's you are right. It's basically setting a precedent that it's not well for the locker room. We saw with Weigl when he came in, what it did to the locker room, right? Weigl came in making a salary above everybody else who's already on Benfica, and that kind of divided the locker room. And from there on, you saw what happened. We can't do that with the current team that we have, because we have, like, to me, like, it's in unity. Like, we have a team playing as a whole, and one guy, Grimaldo, coming in, which to me seems like he's in a good group with João Mario, with the Rafa and those guys, Chiquinho and all them, coming in and say, now, like you said, like, they just gave me $20 million for 4 years I'm going to be here. You guys are still making the 1.8 and 1.9 million a year. So that's I don't think that's healthy for the locker room. I hope they don't do that. I hope they agree to give people raises, but not a lump sum like that. That would just absolutely set a fire on the locker room.
Yeah, and the example that I use, right, and Steve says here, soccer's all about the moment. Every player is worth what he's doing at the moment. Right now, Gri is just one of the best out there. So think about it. And I agree with that. But the way I'm looking at it, right, and my real life scenario is look at Arsenal 5 years ago. We gave Ozil a crazy bump in salary, right? He was way above everyone else. And then Aubameyang, and the club struggled for years to stand back up because there was just such an offset of gap between the highest paid and the next one's down. And that's my concern is if Benfica, and again, Arsenal is a club that financially has the backing, right? Benfica is not a club that, while we're financially stable and we have our own assets and we're in the positive, again, we're not, if we're not capable of giving someone a sign-on bonus of 10 or 12 million and keeping them at that salary cap, and we're not capable of doing that for the next person that comes in line or the next person that comes in line, I think it a terrible precedent, and I think you're setting yourself up financially for a huge nightmare to then reestablish that. And again, this is a club that has had its issues in the locker room, right? Maybe not financially driven, but personalities, right? And like when you get the right mix of egos and mindset and personality, money can ruin a lot of things, right? And money changes a lot of personalities and changes the way people act. I'm not saying that Grimaldo would be that person, but there's always that potential, and that's what worries me, right? Like if we're going to make such an astronomical drive there, I think that there's a huge risk. For all I know, it could work out extremely well, right? And it could work, but I just think I think it's a high risk, potentially low reward. But again, I that's just my opinion. Says, and Welcome says that I think it's a new name. I would spend that money for Guerreiro instead of Grimaldo. What do you guys think?
This year's Grimaldo is just it's just that he can't compete. I mean, I like Guerreiro. He's always hurt though, so to me is like it's very I like him. I'll take him at Benfica anytime. If Grimaldo left, Guerreiro would be my second option to come to Benfica. Obviously, his salary would have to be reduced to what Benfica can afford. But I wouldn't switch right now Grimaldo for Guerreiro.
Jay,
I wouldn't switch either. But if Grimaldo doesn't stay, so like one more thing I wanted to add about the whole lump sum thing. When Benfica spends $20 million, it's usually for a guy that they thinking down the road that they're going to sell for a little bit more than that.
You're going to get return on your investment.
Sometimes it doesn't work out, like the RDT, where we
still made it back.
We still made our money. That's what I'm trying to say. We always try to make our money back somehow. Correct. And if you're paying Grimaldo, like Grimaldo's already up in age a little bit. Like I'm not saying he's old, but
28.
So if he gets another 5-year contract, he's going to be in his early 30s.
This is like his last big contract.
Yeah, you're not gonna get 20 million for.
Yeah, but most players that are in their prime don't stay the whole contract. They stay he's having a phenomenal season at 30. He's gonna get bought by a bigger team, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to pay a lot of money for a 30-year-old. The reason why Benfica makes so much money on these deals is because we're selling João Felix at 19, 20 years old. We're selling Darwin at 22, 23 years old.
And a left back. How much did Nuno Mendes go to PSG for? 45?
Yeah. And he was like 19.
Yeah. And he's young, right? Like if Nuno Mendes is going for 45, how much are you going to get for Grimaldo?
You're probably going to get like 5 million.
20? I mean, 20 would probably even be a stretch at that age, right? Like,
yeah. I don't know, but like for me personally, if Grimaldo doesn't stay, I would like for them to kind of probably go find another,
or give
find like another Nordic kid from up north that they're having, and see if we can find a left back.
I don't think we've given Rich a chance. I mean, because Grimaldo's been phenomenal, but I think he might be a good left back to
exactly.
Take
he could probably be the guy that fills right in, and like we don't know that because we haven't really seen much from him.
Yeah, George says, my question is, the last few seasons he was not playing that great. Why is he giving his best now when his contract is about 10? Again, it's a contract year, right? They're always looking for that big payday. That's what I don't agree with what he asked for. No, I don't agree. salary is if he wants to stay, Benfica should raise his salary, but not that much.
I don't agree with that because we just talked about Ramos, right? Everybody at Benfica, João Mario, another player. Last year, we all said, dude, it's a flop. And this year,
half the season.
Yeah, well, I know, but he had a few at the beginning of the season. He looked like a superstar
with JJ, and then Verissimo came in, and then he didn't play.
And Grimaldo's had seasons where for like half the season he looked phenomenal.
He's been here 8 years now,
right? So like depends on how the team is playing and the performing. And right now everybody's performing well. So yeah, Grimaldo looks phenomenal, just like Ramos looks phenomenal. João Mario looks phenomenal. Chiquinho looks phenomenal. So it's about the team and momentum, and I think it's everybody's looking good this year.
I know how to solve this left back problem. Go get Nuno Tavares back, dude.
Oh, dude, stop. Stop.
That's Oscar's new boy, dude, from Marseille.
Oh my God, that guy. Jesus.
Sorry, I'll pronounce his name correctly. Felix.
He's playing well at Marseille.
Yeah, dude. I'm American. I say Felix.
They asked him in a presser the other day how to say his name. And they were like, do you care? Do you get annoyed? And he's like, no, I don't care. Let me run through some of these comments real quickly. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Nick says, I like Yaremchuk, but he just doesn't fit Roger's scheme. He isn't mobile enough. He's better suited staying in the box waiting for service. I think that's what Jay touched on, right? Like Ramos is more mobile, presses from the front, helps a back, right? And Yaremchuk's not that type of player, right? And when you're playing in a system that doesn't fit your strengths and only picks out your weaknesses, right? Like it's difficult for you to be able to perform. Let's see what else. Dave was talking about Gonçalo Ramos. He could become the next Kai Havertz. I'm assuming he's referencing the fact that Kai Havertz has looked terrible at Chelsea. Although I think he's playing out of position. I don't think Kai Havertz is a striker. He Leverkusen, but
maybe
that's
Chelsea comes knocking on the door for Ramos.
Yeah. Neil says he won't stay and get stupid money for him this summer. Rui Costa won't be able to say no. There's rumors that he's going to renew in his release clause. Right now is at 120 million. But yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for us to keep him in the summer. Nick says Ramos is far better or far superior than Weghorst is. I think Akon is more superior than Weghorst. That guy, I don't know what the hell Man United was thinking. That guy's terrible. I mean,
he's
I don't know what the hell.
He's a Paulinho for Sporting. He actually he's a body that can hold the ball, and he allows Rashford and all of them to play well around him.
Think if they had like an actual in that spot, how deadly that front three would be. The way Rashford's playing, I feel like that guy like holds you guys back. I don't know what the hell's going on. Nick says hopefully stays 1 more year. That would be phenomenal. Neil said Portugal is a selling league. Unfortunately, agree. Júlio says isto só é possível devido ao treinador estar conseguindo tirar o melhor de cada um. I agree. E boa noite e obrigado pela atenção, Júlio. George says Benfica can't afford any crazy contracts. Let's see what else. Dave says he'll go to a Juventus when they lose Cuadrado or something and earn $6 million a year. It is what it is. He's talking about Grimaldo. The rumor is that Juve is on the radar for him. Nick says he's actually playing decently for Marseille.
I was about to say that. He's actually scoring goals and playing well.
He is. Josh says, I understand your argument, but I don't forget what Grimaldo has done at the end of the season. So for me, he's still on probation for what happened at the end of last season. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I see both sides of the argument here. One last question I have here in terms of the game. The Bacalhau brothers, as they've been called, I thought that was a good opportunity for one of them or two of them to get some minutes given the results, but they didn't come in. And do you guys see that? I don't know if you guys have watched the B team games. I've caught a few, and I felt like the two of them still are off in terms of the level that we would expect to see at Benfica. Maybe Sheldrup, I think, is maybe closer to being at that level than Casper is. But wanted to get your thoughts. Does that kind of show, is it more of they're not at that level yet, or is it more of Roger showing his expectations, right? Because, instead of bringing on a Neves or a João Neves, he could bring on one of those guys, right, and give them some of those minutes in the stadium, in a Champions League match. Or is it more Roger saying, listen, like, I know you guys are hot prospects, but you're not at that level yet, and you need to earn it, right? Like, even though we're up 4-1 or 4-0, and this is a game where we could just throw, clear the benches, as they call it, right? I'm not going to do that. You need to earn your spot, right? How do you guys see that?
To me, is like, how do you put a kid like that over Nadish? Like, what are you telling Nadish? Say, Nadish, sorry, buddy. You know,
But I mean, the game's pretty much
it
it's
is.
pretty
But
much
Nadish
wrapped
wants to
up.
play. It's Champions League. You don't think Nadish wants to play in a side of the lose? Yeah, he
Yeah,
does.
I agree.
You don't think Gonçalo Guedes wants to play in a side of the lose? Yeah, he does. So putting these kids in, I get it. It's giving them minutes, and you have to think about, but are they ready for it? Maybe not. Maybe that's why he hasn't put them in. But I mean, like, are attacking, and maybe given Ramos, but you take out Ramos, Musa's right there to
you
go
got
in.
Musa,
Like,
yeah.
It's tough, man. I think those kids have to wait their turn. Like, just like Antonio Silva. Do you think Antonio Silva ever thought, oh shit, I'm gonna start for Benfica this year? No, with Verissimo and Morato on the bench. No, he didn't. But he grabbed this chance. So those kids have to be ready for that chance. And when they do have one, grab it.
So I kind of have a similar take. I think that they have too many guys in front of them right now. I also think that there is probably they need to get adapted to our league a little bit more. I haven't personally. I only saw like one and a half games probably, and it looked like Mike said, they look like a little off from what we probably expected. But hey, who needs the Bacalhau brothers when we got little Jon Snow playing upstanding in the midfield, huh? He played pretty well when he came in. That's Joel Neves, in case people didn't get it.
Yeah.
He got a nice assist. Man of the match for you guys. Goal point has Gonçalo Ramos at 8.4 with 2 goals and an assist.
Didn't they give it to Rafa?
Rafa gave the award to Gonçalo Ramos after the match. Jay, who was your man of the match?
Who do you think? 88, Gonçalo Ramos. I thought he was the best player on the field. Rafa, I thought, to be honest with you, you couldn't. I think Rafa played well, Chiquinho played well, João Mario played well. But to me, Gonçalo Ramos was the star.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I liked all of them. Like I said, the whole team played really, really, really well. Chiquinho looked really good in the midfield, but Ramos had 2 goals and assists, and crucial ones to be. The first assist to Rafa is crucial. Then he scored the next 2. So to me, Ramos 100% deserves the match.
By the way, how did their center back, or that Ciala guy, how did he not get a second yellow for that PK?
So my question was going to be, my referee situations here was that Yaremchuk slide tackle on Chiquinho was borderline. 20th minute Lang, that tackle on Chiquinho at the edge of the box was reckless.
Yeah.
What the hell? And then on top of that, in the 42nd minute, Lang takes out Ba, and then Ba gets taken out by another player. He gave the advantage, gave that guy a yellow card, and didn't give Lang a second yellow card. And that tackle was terrible.
Yeah, and then that was the worst PK tackle I've ever seen in my life.
So lazy.
He didn't even get a card for that. Like, I don't understand that.
That was like Sunday league lazy tackle.
That tackle on Gilberto, the PK. Did he already have a yellow? He already had a yellow.
He did.
He didn't get another yellow.
Dude, this is
the ref being like, dude, these teams get
this team is out. It's gonna be five goals right now. Like, let them go home. And
that was the 4th. That was the 4th.
No, that would have been
that penalty.
The PK is the 5th. No, PK is the 4th. Yeah.
PK is the 4th, but they were already down 5-0 in aggregate at that point.
Yeah. But that penalty was like as lazy as it gets.
I thought Gilberto was
nowhere near the ball.
I thought Gilberto was going to get hurt on that because, like, he looked like that was a bad tackle. I was like, dude, did he get like twisted off?
He came nowhere near the ball. It blew my mind.
But it comes to show that, like, we talk week in and week out about our refs in Portugal, and look at this in Champions League. This is the best refs from each country, and they make mistakes like this.
Who's Scott Parker, like an English ref? Scottish? I don't know anything about
No, Scott Parker was the coach. I don't remember who the ref was or where he was from. I'd never seen him before.
I read Scott Parker, and I was like, oh, maybe that was
No, that was the coach. Nick says the Bacalhau brothers probably are 2 currently. The talent is there, but they need to work for it more. I think the Danish are a few steps behind competitive wise. I agree. Right. And I think that's just kind of level setting and setting the standard in the team, right? Like, you want to play, you want to get minutes, whether it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10. You need to be at a certain level, and we have a high expectation here. Juninho says, I wonder why UEFA gave it to Rafa. I think it was Benfica asked them to give it to Rafa because if they give it Gonçalo Ramos, there'd be more attention on him. So they're like, fuck it, give it to Rafa. We don't want too much attention on Gonçalo Ramos after scoring 2 goals and getting an assist. I agree with you guys in terms of manage the match. I think Gonçalo Ramos, again, I put my hands up. He's definitely surprised me for the best.
And
every
the
time
ref
he
was
scores.
Turkish.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him. Every time he scores, go ahead.
His first goal was amazing. I think that was his best
really
goal.
good.
It was really good. It was. I was like, wow. I think I texted wow like 3 times in the group chat.
I think that goal just shows how high of a confidence he has right now.
Exactly.
For him to be
it
able
was
to
good.
do that.
And like, remember when I mentioned like who do you start or leave on the bench against the Family Count game and then against today, and I said I would start the same team against them and then Rafa for this game because it would open up Rafa into getting his confidence back. And look at that.
And I'll say that Oscar called that. Rafa looked like he's back in this game. He looked like he was like the old Rafa. So that was good to see as well.
Yeah, it's good. I agree with the man of the match. So we'll move on here. We're into the quarterfinals. Juninho says it was sad that his goal was off. It was. That would have been an electric start to the game. Well, man of the match, of course, it's Ramos for me, but Florentino has done a hell of a game again. I agree. Good. Tony tells us the ref was from Turkey. Thank you, Tony. I don't know if you guys saw Tonio Silva had 78 of 78 pass completions in the game. He didn't miss a single pass. And I was watching the extended highlights, and people were like, oh, he passes to the side. Dude, he had a couple of long balls.
Yeah.
The 5th goal, he plays the long ball to Ramos. Ramos flicks it to Rafa to João Neves, and Neves to Ned. Like, he plays a 40-yard ball split in the midfield, right? So it's not like he's playing 2-foot passes to Otamendi, which I thought was impressive. I mean, for a center back, having no missed passes in an entire Champions League game or in a game in general, I thought was pretty impressive. So we're into the quarterfinals. We don't know who we're going to get yet. The only 2 teams that have booked their place in so far is Milan today. Bayern Munich booked their place today. Chelsea booked their place yesterday, and Benfica as well. So we got 4 teams in. Oscar, you weren't here for that first conversation, so I'm going to get your I'm at least going to get your want and avoid. So who's the team that you want?
If I was here, I would have picked Milan to go forward. I would pick Bayern to go. I would have picked the Benfica, and I would have picked Chelsea to go.
You fucking lying sack of shit.
Of course you would. Of course you would. Who's your want? Who's your want based on how you think it's going to pan out?
All right. So I think obviously we have confirmed this is Milan, Chelsea. I think Real and Napoli are almost confirmed, but not yet. I can't count them. I can't count the other teams out, but right now they look lit. I think City will not let this run go away. So I think City's most likely in. And Porto, Inter is a toss-up. I think Inter might make it, but it's a toss-up. If the teams that I think are going to go, which is Real, Napoli, City, and Inter, my team, I want Chelsea, and this is the reason why I want Chelsea, because I'm pissed off at Enzo, so I want I want Chiquinho to go and like snap his leg, but just kidding. I'll snap his leg, but like kind of tickle it a little bit so he falls over and just gets out. But I want Chelsea for major for the fans that they have. I want to legit. There's a promise that I made. I won't say on the air, but if Benfica gets Chelsea and they eliminate them, I'm doing this, and maybe I'll say it afterwards.
We're filming this. We're filming this if this happens.
But if we do get Chelsea, and to me, they're not the weakest team on the list here, right? That's just bottom. I think we have a better chance against Milan or Inter than we do against Chelsea, especially now that they're coming through and actually playing decent again or scoring some goals. So they finally figured out how to score goals. But if Chelsea beats us, I swear to God, I'm blocking my phone, probably breaking my phone, toss it in the trash, changing my number, and I will not go on Facebook, social media. I will not be in this podcast for the next 3 months. But I want
Chelsea's your want.
That's my want. What I don't want.
Your void?
My void. and this is crazy to say, but my avoid, obviously we have the cities and the Bayerns, all right? That's obviously the two teams that I definitely don't want to face. But I'm scared of Napoli. I don't know why. I'm scared of Napoli. Yeah, I am. But I don't want City or Bayern. That's my two teams that
You get one pick, dude. Who's your?
Yeah, you only got one, dude.
Bayern.
Thank you. That's what I said because we always get smacked in the face by them.
Bayern is my team that I don't want.
Mike,
Jay
who did
didn't
I
want.
say I want?
Jay wanted to avoid Bayern. He wanted to avoid Bayern, and he said he wanted Milan or Chelsea. I wanted Tottenham, but they got eliminated. So I would prefer Milan, right? If I had the choice, I'd be fine with Milan. My avoid was Bayern as well. And having watched it today, I feel like this Bayern team isn't as good as Bayern of the years past. But
they get
the fact that these guys brought on Gnabry, Sané, and Mane off the and Cancelo. I mean, 4 guys that start on most teams. I was like, yeah. I mean, they may not play, they may not be as suffocating as they were in years past, but I think that if Lewandowski had stayed and they had the team that they have today, they would be an absolute machine. I think their only gap is the fact that Choupo-Moting, I don't know how the hell he's at this team. I don't think he's a striker for a team like Bayern Munich, but I feel like that's their one piece that's missing for this team to be basically, Chupa my thing. I feel like that's the one piece that's missing from these guys to really be a machine again. Let me see some of these comments here. Oh, we got a few here. Let's see. Where did I leave off?
I kind of agree with Bill too. Like Real is a team that you want.
I thought of Real, but then I look at the league and how they're playing, and I get Champions League is totally different from the league and blah blah blah. But man, like we've played Real in the past, and Benfica does good against Real. I don't know why. Like they can match up pretty well against Real. When it comes to Bayern, we never do. We never do. So it's almost like
one year with Rui Vitoria.
Yeah, that 1 year that even.
But typically they smash everyone.
Yeah, they especially in Benfica. Like we've had how many games we played against Bayern? Like, we've had unlucky to be
a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, and we always get 4, 5, 4, 5. I'm like, holy shit, does this stop?
Yeah. Sheikh Marcelino says after the World Cup, there's a new Ramos full of confidence, doing things he wouldn't dare before, like step overs and sitting opponents before scoring. I agree. I don't know what happened at the World Cup, but he's definitely gotten a whole other level of confidence, which we'll take.
We all know what happened at the World Cup.
I don't know if that video was from there. That might have been before the World Cup.
It came on the World Cup. I don't give a shit.
It did come out during the World Cup. Maybe that's what happened. Nick says, I think we match up well against either the Milan teams. George says, any of the Milan teams, I'm happy. Joaninha says, avoid Bayern and Real. Bill says, avoid Real. That was his avoid was Real, and Bill's want was Chelsea. Dave says Napoli is dangerous. They do look good, for sure. George says, I really don't mind Porto.
If they make it through, but I'm more scared of Porto than probably like Milan for some reason.
Yeah.
With Bill picking Chelsea, that's just so weird to me because he's a Chelsea. Like, wouldn't you, as a fan of two clubs, you want to avoid each other?
He's not a Chelsea fan.
Bill, defend yourself.
Bill
I
mean, I don't root for anyone but Benfica, but I know some of you guys have two teams, and I don't know. I usually don't give a shit who the hell we play. I just want to get the result, but I know, like, when we play Arsenal, Mike's always in a fucking pickle. I know he wants Benfica over Arsenal.
Well, Benfica is always my main team.
But you always try to avoid them.
Correct. Bill says Real and the UCL going hand in hand. No matter how they look in the league in Europe, they're a different monster. I mean, that game against Liverpool was fucking ridiculous. I mean, who the hell going down 2-0 and all of a sudden they score 5 unanswered goals? I mean, not many teams are doing that at Anfield. Especially going down 2-0 early on. Dave says, I don't know how to say this guy's name, but they call him Kvaradona. The Georgian guy and Osimhen were held in January despite massive big club interest for this exact reason. They're here for blood. They do look good. They got 15 or 18 point gap in the Serie A.
They just lost, right? They just lost the last weekend.
I don't even know. But I will say, like, do the Serie A teams, I think, of today look
Lazio.
that good, right? Like Milan doesn't look that good, and they won the Scudetto last year. Inter Milan, in my opinion, has the best roster in the Serie A on paper, and they don't look that great. Juventus, they just keep playing negative points because they keep doing shit that they're not supposed to. So they, instead of going up the ladder, they're going down the ladders. I don't know what's going on.
Mafiosos over there.
Right? Roma is up and down, right? So it's just like, I get that Napoli is blowing them out of the water in Italy, but like, what's the level of competitiveness in the Italian league? And obviously, we'll be able to see as they progress in this competition. But I agree, like they do look good, but there are easily 3-4 other teams that I would much rather avoid for Napoli.
But we're talking about like comparing Napoli and Benfica, right? So, but you think,
but I think Napoli and Benfica would be a good matchup because Napoli plays an open game too.
Right, but they're both playing as a which is, to me, I think Benfica finds and in a team like Chelsea, they can like find their weaknesses better than in Napoli. Napoli is a team just like Benfica. They play as a whole. They might not have superstars all over the place, but they play as a whole, and that's dangerous team to play.
They're more of a team.
As a team. Like Ajax from the past, right? They play as a team. Yep. They went to the semifinals against Tottenham. Like that's what scares me, because those teams that plays as a team it's freaking scary. That's all.
I got to take a screenshot of this. Bill, there are external forces making me want us to smash Chelsea. I'm going to send this to the Blues Brothers, and they're going to kick you out of the club.
He's going to get kicked out of the Blues Brothers.
Hold on, I got to send this before I forget. Bill's going to be exiled from the Blues Brothers club.
They're gonna call him fraud and this and
Oscar
that.
knows the external forces.
No, I know.
Dude, they're all frauds.
Yeah, Napoli won or lost. You said they lost 1-0 this weekend?
Yeah, they lost to Lazio.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of different takes here. Taylor earlier said he wanted Porto. Philippe said he wanted Chelsea. Steve said he wanted Inter. Yeah, I guess, what do you guys say to? I think I asked. I don't remember. Did we talk about wanting Porto in the next round last podcast? I can't remember if we did or not.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What did we talk about us wanting Porto in the next round in Europe?
I said I kind of want to avoid it, because if we ever lose that, I will never hear the end of it.
Oscar, what do you?
I told you, I'd rather play Milan, both Inter or AC, than Porto, just because we beat them this last game, but our history against Porto is not the greatest, and they always find some kind of way to play against us that we struggle with.
Dave asks a question here: for the big 7 or 8 clubs with money looking for a striker, would you rather pay 100 for Ramos or 120 or 130 for an older Osimhen or an Ivan Toney? They appear to be a plug-and-play striker. Put your guys in the shoes of one of those clubs that have that financial capability. Who do you splash that money on? My opinion, if you're spending that much money, there's not many clubs that can spend that money and not expect a return right away. And I think that probably, given their age and exposure, you're probably likely to get. I mean, I wouldn't put Toney in that equation, in my opinion. I think Ivan Toney's okay, but I don't think he's going to go for that much money. I agree with Bill. I think Kane probably goes in that list. But I would probably, if you're going to spend that much money, you want someone that hits the ground running right away. Ramos, I think, is more of a 2-3 year project, similar to what Darwin Núñez is with Liverpool, right? He's got 4 this season in his first year, but I don't think anyone expected him to hit the ground running in a new league, in a more competitive league. My opinion, I would go with the guy that probably has more experience and is a little bit older, that you're probably likely to hit the ground running right away. But Oscar, what would you do?
All right, say, like, and Bill brought the good point out, like Kane might be leading. Say Tottenham wants to spend that kind of money on a striker, right? Who they want. If they're going to keep Kane for another year, maybe, possibly 2, then spend it on Ramos, because Ramos is going to be right on his shadows and, getting minutes and to replacing him. Now, if you have no striker, like Manchester United has a Rashford who plays more like a, behind the striker type of player, and they have the Weghorst or whatever his name is, then you want somebody to come in and score goals right away, right? And I don't think Ramos might need a few more time to adapt to the league. So I don't think he's a player to plug in and play. So I think I would go, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, spend it on somebody that can give you results right away.
Right
And
away.
I'm not saying that Ramos won't, because I could be totally
Correct.
wrong. I was wrong about him this year. So he come in and score 20, 30 goals, but EPL is totally different than the Portuguese league, and Darwin can be proof of that.
Jay,
You guys
tell
know
us
where
what
I'm
you know.
going. You spend the money on Gonçalo Ramos, period.
Fair. Dave says Ivan Toney's a great striker. He's got good numbers in the EPL. I agree, right? Like Ivan Toney looks good at Brentford, but there's less weight on the shirt, right? I mean, Patrick Bamford looked good for Leeds a couple of years ago, and he went to the national. And Patrick Bamford is an average striker at best today, right? I'm not comparing him to Ivan Toney, but I think having one good season and playing for a bigger club with a lot more pressure, I think is a big difference. I think of any striker in the EPL that's going to go and make a big splash right away, I think Harry Kane has to leave this summer. Like,
so how old is this Ivan Toney, whatever his name is?
he's probably 20. If I had to guess, let me see. I'm going to say he's maybe.
And how old is this other guy, Victor, the Nigerian dude from Napoli?
Osimhen. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. So Napoli. I don't even know how to spell his name. Victor Osimhen is 24.
He's saying 24. So if I'm going to be spending that much money personally, I would want to go with the younger player because it gives me a better potential to get a return on him. If I'm going to spend 100, 120, 130 on Harry Kane, then yeah, I believe Harry Kane is a legit plug and play. Now, that Victor guy, the Nigerian dude, I don't know if he's a plug and play. I haven't really heard much of him until this year, really. And
Correct.
The other Tony guy,
he's 24.
Osimhen is 24. Ivan Toney's 26.
Yeah, but Osimhen is 24. So I mean, he's the same age as Ramos. So how is he a plug and play and Ramos not?
Who's the same age as
Osimhen?
Ramos isn't 24, is he?
23, isn't he?
21.
No, 21.
Gonçalo Ramos is 21 years old. Please put that in your head.
Turns 22 in June. Yeah, so he's much younger.
Well, I personally would go with the younger player to see if I could maybe one day make some money off of him. I don't think you're going to make money off a guy that's 26, 27, or whatever age that they're at. Maybe the Victor guy, but he's also not proven either. He proves that he can score in the Italian league.
Correct. And Dave says they don't care about resale. And that's the difference, right? Like if you're at a big club, right? Like the Manchester Cities of the world don't care about, I invested 120, I'm expecting to sell for 300. They have deep pockets, so they don't care. What they want is results on the field. They don't care about the return on investment. Where from our perspective, a Benfica is looking for return on investment on a big investment there, right? So there's a huge difference. So
I just say that's what I would do. What a big club does is they'll buy anyone that wants to come to their team. That's
correct. Yeah, and they have unlimited funds, so that's exactly what they can do. Running tight on time here, so let's wrap this up quickly. OdySaves renews till 2027. He's 10 appearances for Benfica, official appearances, 202 goals conceded, 87 clean sheets. He's got one red card in his time at Benfica, which was in the 18-19 season in a 2-4 loss or a 2-4 win at Alvalade against Sporting. In this season, I had the stat here and I think I lost it. This season alone, hold on a second, he has something crazy like 15 clean sheets in 23 games in the league, which is wild. And I know that clean sheets and goal conceded plays a part in the team and the defense that's in front of you, right? So there's a huge team effort there. But I'll ask you guys, Oscar, I'll start with you. Does this show that he's in Benfica's plans for the near future, or is it more of a Benfica protecting their asset, knowing that his contract is running down and knowing that he's the have today, right? So one, showing confidence in, but two, protecting the asset and not running the risk of losing a goalkeeper that is an international for a free cost.
Let me like I've always defended Adi. I mean, I defended him when he lost his spot to Elton Late, and I keep defending him. Is there part of the game that I think he can improve on, like the penalty kicks or the feet? Yes, 100%. But if he was good at those things, he wouldn't be in Benfica right now. All right, but a big shot came in already and bought him.
Also, that's negative mentality. Talking about players leaving Benfica. What's wrong with you?
We talked about Grimaldo last year, right? At the end of the year, he gave an interview saying he wanted to leave. And it's a fact.
And Ody did too.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. Ody did the same thing. He said he wanted to leave. He was done at Benfica, and now he's a starter and he's playing well. 15 clean sheets in 23 games. Like I said, the whole team is clicking, is playing well. Does he deserve it to renew? I 100% agree to renew it, and then see what happens. Because I know from what I'm thinking in Rui Costa's view is he has a lot of faith in Samuel, the B goalkeeper that came up to the 18. Yep. He won us the youth league and all that, and he's seemed like a decent goalkeeper. So we'll see how he pans out. But right now he's not a sure thing. So secure your asset. Let's see how it rolls out, and then if somebody comes in and buys him, and you want to buy a backup, go ahead. But I think right now it's a good idea to renew and secure him.
I kind of agree with Oscar, except for the youth goalie that he mentioned. I think it's the other goalie that they're looking to kind of climb up the ranks. Is that Andre Ferreira guy? I think his name is
Andre Gomes.
Yeah, that guy, the one that was.
But he's like 17.
Yeah, but I think that's the goalie that they have their eye on. I do think I kind of agree with what Joey just said. I think we need to find another backup. I think Ody's a great, solid goalie. I don't think he's like an Oblak or Edison type goalie. If he was, he would probably be out of here. But I think Ody's a goalie that can play at Benfica and he can perform. The only thing that I struggle with is if we gave those to PKs, I know we're going to lose because that guy can't say one for the life of him.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I really ever had with Ody. I know people complain about his footwork, like playing the ball on his feet. I think he's not the greatest, but I don't think he's also the worst either. I think he's like in the middle. But a guy between the posts, I think he's very, very solid. But I kind of agree. Like I think they're waiting for the play. I think it's going to be that kid that you guys mentioned, and not Samuel. But I think we do need to find another Elton Late type goalie, someone to kind of compete with him because he needs that competition. Because I think having Late there kind of lit a fire on his ass. He didn't like probably being benched a year ago, or I just think that we need one more goalie overall.
Yeah, there's two young kids sitting in his shoulders is like, I'm gonna really have to fuck up for them to actually take my spot.
Exactly.
Says we should get Navas maybe, but his salary's too high. Yeah.
No, we went through that.
Yeah, I think his salary is way too high. I don't think we'd be able to do that. Just from a penalty perspective, in his career, Ody has 8 saved penalties and 54 scored. So his numbers are.
They should just go find a goalie in Portugal, like one of those goalies that fucking has like an amazing game, like Bacalhau or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
that always plays good against us.
Yeah,
you could do like Portugal, get Samuel Portugal from Portimonense, and then he doesn't play. The goalie that's at Portimonense now is not too bad. The Japanese guy, he looked good the other day. I think it was against Sporting a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
That we had a couple more topics, but we'll push those off till next week. Benfica plays Marítimo next on Sunday at the weekend. We had previously talked about the match fixtures in March. We have 4 Famalicão, Bruges, Marítimo, Vitória. 2-0 this month. We got big game against Marítimo away. They've been playing better recently. Typically, it's a tough place to go. So I envision, and again with the season, closer and closer to an end, teams needing to get away from the relegation zone, these games are going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. And I envision again another difficult game on Sunday. Hopefully we don't have a lull after a European match. There's a lot of times where teams come out of a European match and kind of have a dud performance. I hope that's not the case. But time will tell. So Sunday against Marítimo, a big one for us. For those of you that were in the chat, appreciate everyone jumping in, joining the conversation. We had a lot of comments. We had a lot of regulars. We had a handful of new names that were in there, so we appreciate that. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe on the various social media platforms. We appreciate it. As always, gentlemen, a pleasure chatting with you guys. We'll be back next week after the Maritimo game. And as always, viva
Viva Benfica!